Well, a doctor in Alabama is making news, and there's been others, but he's making news saying, I will not treat anyone that's unvaccinated.
Mm-hmm. When you say treat, do you mean treat for COVID if they get it, or just treat when they walk into their doctor's
They
office?
can't come to his office. He's not even going to treat you for anything.
If you're not vaccinated. Against COVID.
And he has a sign up that says, from today, whatever date was, this time, going forward, if you're unvaccinated, I don't want you in my office at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so we, of course, thought, can you even do that? Is that legal or not? And I've heard other stories of some nurses saying, I don't want to be here anymore at the hospital. I'm not treating people unvaccinated, so forth and so on. Surgeons, doctors. We do have our official attorney, Lisa Lanier, on the phone. Can you do this? Is this legal?
It is. He's a physician in private practice, and he can choose, as long as he's not violating, basic constitutional rights like based on race, gender, that kind of thing. I mean, you can't discriminate. He can't say I'm only going to treat white patients or whatever, but he can absolutely say that there's no constitutional protection about vaccinations, and he can absolutely say, and doctors do already and have in recent years, not about vaccinations, but they've told patients, there's sort of a trend where they've told patients, you're overweight, you're smoking, you won't diet, you won't listen to me, so I'm not going to treat you anymore. Doctors have done that for years because there's this movement where physicians are really trying to educate folks that, you're coming in here asking me for high blood pressure medication, but you won't do anything about the cause of it. You're just putting a Band-Aid on it by taking these medications, when if you would lose weight and exercise, you would be healthier and you wouldn't have this problem. And so, so physicians have been saying that to people around things like weight and blood pressure and smoking. And so now you're starting to see it like this guy in Alabama, and he put up a sign that said, I will no longer be your doctor if you're not vaccinated. And he has had a number of patients call him and say, okay, look, tell me where to go get it.
Okay,
and,
wow.
But that's the doctor. Yeah. Okay, I get the private office.
Yeah,
but let's say that
Right.
doctor's working at a hospital. Can he refuse treatment to you because you're not vaccinated?
Well, then you get into some complicated issues about, is it a public hospital? And public hospitals typically don't turn anyone away and often cannot turn anyone away. So if it's a private hospital, it might be a little different. And physicians, though, in public and private hospitals are usually, oftentimes, not always, oftentimes not employed by the hospital, but are independent contractors. So then you get into a thing about, between, how does their contract deal with that? Can they refuse patients? Typically, you cannot in a hospital setting. So typically, you're going to still be able to get treatment at a hospital. But a lot of private physicians are talking about doing stuff like this, as well as, public accommodations. You're hearing people talk about, showing proof of vaccination to get into theaters and things like that, and events.
Concerts.
And so I think you're going to see concerts. You're going to see that more and more. And, right now, a lot of them are saying vaccination or a negative 72-hour COVID test. But more and more, they're starting to, now that there's a vaccine that is completely FDA approved, and the others will be, right behind it, they're starting to say, well, it's FDA approved. Now there's no reason. A lot of anti-vaxxers said, well, it's experimental and it was temporary. It was under that emergency thing. So now that impediment has been moved, we're finding that a lot of the anti-vaxxers are now trying to move the goalposts and say, well, it's actually more than that.
Well, and Lisa, we were talking about, having to show your vaccination card to get into concerts. I mean, it's like becoming more and more popular. I was hearing that Delta is going to start charging unvaccinated employees like $200 because they say that the average cost is about $40,000 if you go into the hospital, like for your hospital stay, if let's say you get COVID and you're very, very sick. And so do you think that more companies are also going to start charging people if they're unvaccinated?
Absolutely. I think they are going to see companies, you're seeing 90% of inpatient COVID cases are unvaccinated people. And the 10% that are vaccinated are people either who had serious underlying health conditions, were elderly, or they were very early getting the vaccination and it's now waning and they haven't had a booster or third shot yet. So it makes sense. If 90% of your inpatient folks are unvaccinated folks and the costs are that high, I mean, you see, I employ a large number of people statewide, and I had in the last calendar year, I had a lot of claims, not COVID related, but I had a lot of claims. I just happened to have some people have some big illnesses. My insurance rates went up 40%.
Wow.
I mean, it was unbelievable.
Does that mean that more are going to go up? Like, because that
Yeah,
means,
so more people are going to So what Delta is saying to Delta Airlines is saying to their employees is, look, if you're not vaccinated, your rates are going to go up. We're paying for it because they pay full benefits. So there's, I guess, or part benefits, and they're saying, look, you're going to have to pay for this. We're not going to absorb this cost for you not getting this available vaccination.
Lisa, is it a slippery slope? And I want to go back a little bit to the hospital thing. Is it a slippery slope though if it were like you have employees who smoke? And they're not paying more. I mean, maybe there's instances of it, but they're not paying more.
Jared.
Look, I'm slightly overweight, but we have some majorly morbidly obese people that work here. Are they paying more?
Jared, we are 1 second away from that category.
Yes, but if the insurance company, I don't want.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
you can easily just get a vaccine. I don't want to be paying higher
either.
premiums on my insurance. I don't
I'm
want to
saying,
do that.
But where do you
And
stop?
for employers, and you think about for employers that pass, all or some of the cost of health insurance onto the employees, it's not fair to the vaccinated employees that their rates are going to go up, because of all these claims. Because these claims are expensive. I mean, an ICU visit, and I mean, a lot of people. I know one of my kids' dance teachers, 30-something years old, healthy dancer. She was not vaccinated. She's been in the ICU. She was on a vent. She's coming out. And she will never be the same. She can't walk up and down stairs. She doesn't know if she'll ever go back to dance teaching again. I mean, it's crazy.
And Jared, to your point about the overweight people, the people that smoke.
I was thinking more of the smokers.
All right.
Because being fat is very hard to talk about.
Yeah, it is.
But I think, all right, so smoking is an active, proactive thing that you're doing to be that's bad. I think they should be charged more. Why should I have to pay for smokers?
Yeah.
Right? Or at least be offered a way to get off smoking. I wouldn't mind.
Like a non-smoker rate.
Well.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just saying, if the insurance company offered, like, you know what? We don't want you smoking. We have plans and treatments for you to get off smoking. I think that should be incorporated in health insurance. But if you're going to continue to smoke, maybe they should be charged more. Somebody that's overweight necessarily is not always, they're proactively smoking a drug. It has to do with food, metabolism, and a lot
Genetics,
more.
maybe, yeah.
I don't know.
Genetics, but then also like some emotional ties. But there are so many insurance companies that do incentivize you to lose weight. I mean, remember just a few years ago, there was a big thing where I think we got like a $25 or $50 gift card if you reached or you decreased your weight by a certain percentage. Remember that? So it's like they're trying to get you healthy.
But I use mine at Krispy Kreme, though, the gift card.
You are the exception. You are driving our race.
No, I'm not. Because if I had to buy my own insurance outside of a company, I know we were messing around, but like they put, have you ever smoked? Have you ever drank before?
Yeah.
I've never done that.
Yeah.
And then we got everyone here drinking
But
their faces off. Y'all should be charged a lot more, and then the smokers even more.
Wait a minute, though. When I get life insurance, when I went to get life insurance, you have to say if you smoked. And
Yeah,
they
you
look,
do.
Yeah.
They look at your weight
Yep.
and height to see if you, on your body fat, they look to see if you're unhealthy, you're going to get charged a higher rate on
do.
life insurance. So, Lisa, my point is, is it legal? It's legal for a company or even an insurance company to charge more because they didn't get a vaccination. But if you're overweight or smoke, if they try to do that, would that be illegal? If the insurance company, let's say Dick Broadcasting came out and said, everybody that smokes or over a certain body fat percentage is going to pay more for insurance, would that fly?
I think it would, especially if they are seeing a direct correlation to the amounts that they're having to pay to the insurance company.
And you know what would happen?
I'm going to hit the gym.
You would start losing weight.
I would.
Because we don't want to pay more. So I can
Yes.
see how it might work with the vaccination. I also will say that I know myself, I know me, that if I were a doctor,
Yeah.
let's just
Suspend
suspend reality for a
Yeah.
second.
Yeah.
If I were a doctor, let's say, and I keep treating the same patients over and over and over for like drug addiction or alcoholism, and they're the ones who, in a sense, that are abusing the system, where they're relying on the emergency room or whatever because they can. I can imagine being a doctor and feeling super frustrated. Like,
Right.
like I've set you up with all of these programs. I'm trying to help you. I'm giving you.
Yeah, but if it's your private practice, that's paying your salary.
Right. No. I understand.
They're a good customer.
Yeah. I'm all
I know what you're
for
saying,
private
yeah.
practices being able to do what they want to do. I'm
Yep.
all for it. I can just imagine if I were working in a not private practice, a public hospital,
Well, yeah.
I'd be very
like
frustrated.
my wife Kelly, because she does surgeries as a nurse anesthetist. They will have people come in that are handcuffed to the bed.
Right.
They're about to have surgery on because they just shot somebody.
Right.
Ooh,
They
that's
don't have the
difficult.
choice.
No.
They don't have a choice to say, and then they found out later or even beforehand, hey, this guy just stabbed his daughter or whatever, and you have to give him life-saving or her life-saving surgery.
Right.
They don't say turn them away, and that's the way it should be because they're still human beings.
Well, if you're
but
a public.
they're not a
Right.
Yeah. If I was a private doctor, I would want the sickest people on earth. I would post a thing. I want all unvaccinated people here because they're going to be paying. I'm going to make so much money. It's like if I was a dentist, my
Fat
dentist.
people only.
Fat people only that smoke and drink. I want them all.
Come on.
I have extra wide chairs.
Yeah.
Like a conveyor belt that went into my. They don't have to walk anywhere.
You'd be feeding them snacks.
Yes, absolutely.
Moving sidewalk. Yeah.
Lisa, my dentist one time at a trunk or treat, he was handing out not the bite size, full size candy bars
yes.
with his
Oh, of
dental
course, yeah.
office on the back.
Yes.
I'm like, that's smart. Right out their teeth, they come see you.
Yeah. You would be like the doctor handing out cigarettes. Here you are.
Yeah. I don't smoke, but you
Why
should.
would you be handing out fluoride? Hand out the candy
The
bar.
candy.
Yes.
Anyway, we do have another story. Nirvana, the iconic band, is being sued by the baby from Nevermind's album cover. One of their covers, he's naked.
You know it. It's iconic. His little
Everyone has
tiny
seen it.
baby unit is right there on the
Yep.
front of the CD.
His name is Spencer Eldon, and
He's a lot older now.
Yeah, he's now 30 years old. Says his parents never signed a release authorizing the use of his image on the album. Yeah, because you're 8 months old or whatever, 4 months old. And he's suing and saying he's had all sorts of problems with it, and it's
And
caused a lot
isn't
of
he
problems
saying that it's like child pornography?
and exploitation
Yeah,
as well.
that's what he's trying to
Trafficking.
say. Yeah. He's trying to say that it's child pornography, but that's been, I mean, every jurisdiction, this sort of non-sexualized naked baby picture is not considered child pornography. So that's a losing argument right there. I mean, because you think about art and even advertising, all sorts of naked baby pictures and baby products and art, and it's not a sexualized picture. And what the guy is saying is, the way the baby is grabbing for that dollar bill on the fish hook, he's saying that is representing child sex trafficking, which
Oh
it
my
is
gosh.
absolutely not. Nirvana said it was, Nirvana said at the time it was a statement about capitalism and greed, and so it had nothing to do with child exploitation. And the kids when he was a kid, the baby's parents were friends with the photographer. They were all partying poolside at this Pasadena aquatic center. And they say the photographer called the parents and he said, "Hey, you got a baby. I'm photographing babies today. Bring him over and I'll see if he works out." Turned out he worked out. They paid him $200. The kid says that his parents never signed any kind of paperwork, any kind of release, but they had a verbal agreement, obviously, for $200 that they would let them use the photo. And so, a verbal agreement does stand in this kind of a situation. So I think this guy's going to, and he named a bunch of entities that no longer even exist. He named a drummer that wasn't even the drummer that was replaced by Dave Grohl by the time the album was done. I don't know. He didn't do a terribly good job of articulating this lawsuit, and I think it's kind of a money grab. And the guy has tried to make money off this his whole life. He has Nevermind tattooed across his chest. He will sign album covers for you for a price, and he's just done all kinds of things. And he's kind of bitter because he says over and over, "I've reached out to the Nirvana band members over and over, and they won't return my phone calls." He just wants to, over the years, he's just reached out to them personally, just to say hi, and they don't give him the time of day. He's bitter. I don't think he's going to go very far with it.
But what if the cover, because he's naked and it was not his choice, he can prove that it's caused him psychological harm and has caused tons of people are coming up to him and making fun of him or whatever. Does he have a case on that? Not the sex part, but
And he hadn't done all these other things where he's
Yeah.
making money off the album before.
His whole life.
His whole life, right?
And I'm not saying
Yeah.
I know the verbal agreement was that that wasn't his choice. And now let's say he can prove that he's had harm or issues, mental health issues because of this. Then does he have a case?
He really does not, because his parents had the legal right to act on his behalf and give the permission. So they gave the permission. It was a legal, perfectly legal thing to do. And so he doesn't. He does say that, his whole life, like if he walks into a football stadium or something, he feels like everybody there has seen his little baby wean, and it bothers him.
Oh my God!
Right.
Talk about an ego.
Yeah.
He was a baby.
Yeah.
No one knows what you look like.
Nobody
Yes.
would know unless you told them.
Yes.
I was the baby on the cover of Nirvana.
Yeah,
no
he's
one would
been
know
going his
that.
whole life, and nobody would have ever known it. But he broadcast.
Yes,
right.
but
He
when
He
made it.
tells everybody.
Right, but let's say he's with a group of his friends, and then they meet another group of their friends, and they're sitting at the bar and like, oh yeah, this guy was the baby on the Nirvana cover. Then all the group of guys are like, we've seen your unit
so
before.
what? When I was a baby, big deal. Big deal. And if you don't want people to know about it, stop talking about it.
That's a good point.
Right.
But
it's ridiculous.
in Jason's scenario, if it really could prove that he gets bullied over it and people in the school found out and all that stuff, and he hadn't done all these other things that are contrary to kind of what he's doing, could you have a case at that point?
No, because his parents gave permission.
Okay.
I mean, it would be different if they just snatched this baby off the street and the parents didn't give permission. But the parents were over there, saying, absolutely, we'll take the $200 and, another martini. And that's kind of how it went.
But he's got a lawyer that's taking the case, though, right? Is that just for publicity?
Yeah, he does.
You think?
But, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think what they are imagining is that because he sued like all of these record labels and he sued all the band members. He sued the estate of Kurt Cobain, which is problematic because that estate has been closed for a long time. But I think what he's thinking is that they'll settle with him.
Oh, see,
I think he's thinking that they'll settle with him, and they might. They might say, look, the guy. Because I think if you're kind of sort of a do-gooder mentality about trying to make things right, which is nice to be that way, I think they might say, he really only got $200. His parents got $200. It was obviously it's an iconic album cover, so let's throw him a bone. So they might do something just out of
it's not
goodness
worth the lawsuit. It's not worth their time.
Yeah.
They might as well just settle.
And he's only asking, I would say only, but $150,000. I mean, in lawsuits
each.
But still, that's not. You hear somebody they'll sue for $500 million. So it's gonna be less than that.
Well, I think he's actually looking for more money than that. What he's doing is that's a jurisdictional pleading.
I see.
That you have to say more or less than $150,000, so they know what court to put it in.
Okay.
So he's saying that so that he can be in the court that he wants to be in. But I think he's actually going for more than that, and I think they might settle with him because you know what I mean. And they probably don't want to look like jerks, and and if they're going to pay lawyers to defend it. Why not just make them a settlement? I imagine they might do that, but not because they're legally bound to.
Okay.
Yeah, I would just want them to go away. Like, take the money and stop.
When I was at P. Diddy's house, and for the Super Bowl, and I was walking out of his house, and I sprained my ankle over his little bridge because there was it was like a space in there, and I was so embarrassed about it because everybody was leaving and other rappers were coming, like Russell Simmons and everything. So I was like literally crawling down the driveway, right? I bet you at that time, and Lisa, you can tell me this, could I have turned around and did a lawsuit and maybe they would have settled and I would have got a bunch of money and I wouldn't be here right now?
Quite possibly.
Should have called Lisa. You should have called Lisa. That was your chance.
How long does that run out? The statute.
What state was it in?
Miami, so Florida.
Florida. It's probably about 2 or 3 years. I could look into it, but it's usually most states especially in the Southeast, they're all about for personal injury. They're all about 3 years.
That was on Star Island too. I remember, very big house.
Would it have mattered if, let's say, it was 12 years and you were within the statute, but Jason was belligerently drunk? But I'm just asking, would it have changed anything?
It can. It really depends on what the hazard was that caused him to fall, or if he just fell because he was intoxicated, then that makes a big difference.
No, I wasn't. I wasn't there. I wanted to make sure I was acting appropriately in that setting.
And you didn't.
I tried my hardest. I remember before I was like, Carol, make sure you act completely professional here. Blah, 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 blah. And they're like, okay. And then we're all walking out, and that's when I got my foot caught in the bridge, and it hurt. I had to get belligerent after because the pain was so bad.
And would judges ever throw out his case for a lack of street cred? Would they just say, you shouldn't have been there in the first place?
You were lucky to be there in the first place.
What are you complaining about?
Right.
All right, she's great.
Yeah, move to strike. Yeah.
Lisa, she's great. Seriously, she can answer any question. It's amazing. We appreciate you. Lisa Lanier, we love her. Official attorney of Jared and Katie in the Morning. If you're ever injured on the job, and she does way more than that, contact her right away at hireaheavyweight.com.